Horizon Forbidden West is one of the best looking games of this generation. With abundant foliage, beautiful lighting, and stunning environmental detail, Guerrilla Games' open world sequel was seriously impressive. But their new piece of post-launch downloadable content, Burning Shores, looks poised to be even more spectacular. A reworked cloud rendering system alongside PS5 exclusivity promises graphical enhancements above and beyond the base game experience. So how does Burning Shores raise the visual bar? And does the increased fidelity come at a performance cost? Burning Shores takes place after the main story in Horizon Forbidden West, which means you will need an end-game save with a high-level character to complete it. This video will contain some location spoilers for the base game and Burning Shores, but I've tried to avoid story spoilers as much as possible in this piece. Right after booting the game with the expansion installed, you'll get a call from an old friend and you can go to the Burning Shores area, which is a separate map about a third of the size of the main game area. And this new zone is just breathtaking. From the moment you crash land on the Burning Shores to the climactic end of the story some 10 hours later, this new content is a visual treat throughout. A key factor driving Burning Shores' visual progression is the new system for cloud rendering. Clouds have stunning 3D geometry, perfectly mimicking the bulbous yet sparse look of cloud formations in real life. Lighting is very pleasing, with the water vapor faintly occluding the direct light of the sun and creating convincing pockets of shade and large-scale shadows. During sunset conditions, the game's sky looks particularly stunning, with light penetrating the ragged cloud edges and beautifully highlighting their dense formational detail. But most impressive is the ability for the player to fly right up next to the clouds, admiring them from close range without any visual breakup. The density of the clouds scales perfectly from far distance to extreme close range. And of course, you can fly through the clouds as well, with a good approximation of the whiteout conditions experienced when traversing through a cloud layer. This is a pretty unique feat in video games. There's really no circumstance where the clouds exhibit any odd properties. Horizon Forbidden West itself was already pushing very detailed cloud rendering in its own right, however. The game used Guerrilla's in-house Nubis cloud system to display highly detailed volumetric clouds with accurate lighting, combined with a series of performance optimizations, including a very heavy use of temporal upsampling to produce a good-looking final result that still only costs a millisecond or two per frame on console hardware. The game would basically paint cloud layers through a process where each aspect of cloud rendering would be carefully approximated, but this wouldn't hold up well at a close distance and didn't allow players to fly through the main cloud formations. Burning Shores has moved to a voxel-based system for cloud rendering, with a more physicalized simulation of how clouds look in 3D space. The vast amount of voxel data needed to make this work was apparently too much for the PS4 to handle, but unchained from the limits of Sony's 10-year-old console, consistently detailed cloud rendering is possible. The player can now interact with large clouds at gameplay-relevant distances, although the clouds do look better when evaluated from far away as well. The only concession that seems to be a byproduct of this new cloud rendering system is that the clouds occupy fixed positions and general formations within the game world. Over time, you can see that the larger cumulus clouds don't really move at all, while the cloud layers in the base game do scroll past. Clouds that are higher in the atmosphere do continue to move, to be fair, and some of the clouds in the base game also exhibit fixed positions. Plus, the cloud surfaces continue to distort and reform in line with the wind direction, so this is only really readily apparent in time lapses. There are some advantages to this approach as well, like being able to carve out specific cloud features and gaps that don't ever disappear. If this system was used for a full game, I do think that it would be good if the cloud formations were more flexible, but it's not a big issue here. Burning Shores' key populated area, called Fleet's End, is a step up from prior Horizon towns. It's essentially a sprawling coastal village built around two dilapidated office towers, occupying part of the ruined city of Los Angeles. The level of geometric density here is seriously impressive, with Horizon's signature high poly meshes strewn about with abandon. It's pretty wide open too, so it's easy to get an eye full of near and distant detail, all crammed within the frame. If you go back to Forbidden West, the towns there tended to be a bit smaller and did feel like they were built with less intricate geometric structures. They still looked excellent, of course, but the incredible density of Fleet's End feels like a significant step up. Guerrilla seems to have pumped up the already impressive geometry of the base game to really take advantage of the PS5, with last-gen PS4 systems no longer in the picture. It's less clear comparing similar areas in Forbidden West and Burning Shores that there's been a significant boost to general environmental detail. Macro-level shots in most areas seem about as geometry-rich, with similar density of key assets. More carefully hand-built areas like Fleet's End are the exception here, but both Forbidden West and Burning Shores can look very similar in more naturalistic settings. But it is clear that Burning Shores has been uniquely built to look great and work well from the air. Burning Shores takes advantage of Forbidden West's key endgame gameplay addition, the ability to fly on the backs of machines to build the new area. The islands are stretched vertically, with hills and buildings in the middle, and the sides of the map slope into mountains, with roiling seas between land features. This means that the terrain is easily readable from a distance, unlike the flatter terrain in the original game, which didn't navigate quite as clearly from the back of a raptor. It's a subtle difference, but an important one. And the game world has been built with unique building features that only really make sense from an aerial view. The scale of the game shines in combat encounters too. The fights take place with a lot of AI foes, including smaller spawned-in enemies, and occupy massive gameplay areas. There's definitely a sense that the ambition of these fights has been expanded over the base game, which tended to feature smaller combat encounters even when the story suggested much larger conflicts. There's one endgame engagement in particular that I won't spoil here, that is by far the largest fight in any Horizon game to date, showcasing a kind of scale that is reminiscent of the older God of War games. Really, the visuals in Burning Shores are just seriously impressive. You can almost smell the seawater, feel the volcanic heat, and sense the soft mist of the clouds. The core rendering is similar to Forbidden West, but you get the impression that Guerrilla has pushed levels of detail in some areas, in addition to a new cloud rendering system. To the extent that there are any issues, these are largely carried over from the base game. Aloy's animations can look a bit awkward at times, particularly when traversing uneven terrain, though this is a hard thing to work around within a rocky open-world environment. Mounted travel can sometimes reveal some significant pop-in, mostly with larger foliage formations, but also sometimes obviously affecting shadows. The older interior spaces still look odd, with a monotone, overly bump-mapped and specular-rich look that feels a little bit out of step with the rest of the game. But these issues hardly detract from the overall visual presentation. So far, I've been showing off Burning Shores in the PS5's resolution mode at 60Hz output, which offers the highest visual quality at the expense of frame rate. Measured up against the performance mode, the actual visual differences are relatively slim. There is a noticeable loss in image clarity and detail in the performance mode, but other visual elements, including distant LODs, resolve similarly. The resolution mode targets a full 4K, while the performance mode option targets a checkerboarded 1800p, both with dynamic resolution scaling when needed, and the difference in image clarity isn't that meaningful from a typical viewing distance. There is a noticeable cutback as well in cloud rendering, as the clouds seem slightly less detailed and have more pronounced edge artifacts in the performance mode. Of course, this is all after Guerrilla patched Horizon to adjust the TAA treatment and made major changes to the image reconstruction that overhauled the performance mode option. As John covered last year, the original checkerboard solution for the game caused a lot of image breakup and didn't resolve fine details very effectively. But last summer's patch 1.16 massively improved image quality to the point where the two modes look surprisingly similar visually. There's also a balanced mode option available at 120Hz output that splits the difference, with a checkerboarded 2160p resolution that falls somewhere between the two main visual options, again with DRS as needed. As far as I can tell, in general gameplay, Burning Shores perfectly sticks to its frame rate targets. Whether the game is aiming for 30 FPS, 60 FPS, or 40 FPS, there's no deviation that I could detect outside of cutscenes, which do seem to hold a frame for image construction purposes on camera cuts. The game simply performs at a very high level, which is a breath of fresh air considering the issues we've had with a number of high-profile game releases recently. VRR is on the table here as well, and it essentially offers a tweaked, unlocked version of the performance mode that hovers around 60 to 80 FPS when VRR is toggled on in the system settings. It's not a huge boost over the regular performance mode, but it is somewhat preferable if you have a high quality display that presents VRR without panel settings compromises. I personally gravitate towards the performance options here, though there really aren't any bad choices. Burning Shores is an excellent performer, which is impressive in light of the highly complex world that Guerrilla Games has built. I really enjoyed my time with Burning Shores, and it's clearly a visual showcase for PS5 hardware. The new world has been built to maximize in-flight beauty, with stunning cloud rendering and carefully sculpted terrain, and the new town area is a real treat, with very impressive density. At its best, this is a clear step beyond the visuals of the base game. Burning Shores offers a healthy chunk of new playable content. I completed the main story additions in about 10 hours, with the 3 new side quests and new Relic Ruin taking up an extra 4 or 5 hours. For a $20 US asking price, that's a pretty good value, especially considering the quality of the new core quests, which are right up there with the base game story missions. Completionists or the collectible obsessed should be able to wring at least a few more hours scouring for hidden items, defeating enemy bases, and discovering a certain unique hidden encounter. Plus, the core gameplay has been expanded with new uses for the shield wing and a powerful new endgame weapon alongside several new enemy types. Burning Shores is just about everything you could ask for from a game expansion. It's content rich, tells a compelling story, has key new visual features, and runs with excellent performance. It comes highly recommended. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and press the bell for YouTube notifications. Check out the Patreon at digitalfinder.net for exclusive and early access content. And to get in touch, just use Twitter. Thanks for watching.